And so I think for me, that was a bit of a struggle because I found that there were so many things that I had to handle at one time, and it was a bit overwhelming for me.
Everybody else is doing something really exciting. It doesn't help that people are talking about it, posting it on social media.
I still feel as if like maybe I should be doing a little bit more of what is societally acceptable, and maybe participating more in uni activities and all of that.
I think the youth need to get a bit more credit than what they sometimes face, the pressure of saying that I need to show up. Change doesn't always need to be a bad thing.
I feel like it's impossible or almost impossible to seize every opportunity that comes your way, because with that it comes with like balancing everything.
It's very hard to actually challenge them to lead others and then lead change because it takes its toll, right? There's just so many things to do. Welcome to Halopod-cast, where we explore the transformative power of leadership through Halogen's attributes framework. We're your hosts, Ivy and RaeAnne, and in this series, the inner and outer leader will dive into key leadership qualities like emotional intelligence, resilience, and effective communication, and how they can shape the leaders of tomorrow.
This episode comes with a little plot twist. Sean and Ella have passed on the mic to us for now, and we're stepping in to keep the conversations going. You'll be hearing more from me, RaeAnne, your new youth host. I am 20 years old and I am in year 2 of uni. And I hope to bring fresh perspectives and youthful energy to the table. Joining me is Ivy, Halogen's CEO, an advocate for youth leadership who's worked closely with thousands of youth, mentors, and educators over the years.
Whether you're an educator, a parent, a mentor, or someone who guides the next generation, this podcast is here to equip you with practical insights and actionable tools to support young people as they navigate the world and become the leaders they're meant to be. In this episode, we'll focus on attributes that will deal with how we manage ourselves, how we navigate the decisions we have to make, or juggle the various responsibilities that demand our time. If you're ready to learn, grow, and make an impact, let's dive in. So RaeAnne, we've got a really cool topic to unpack today. In the earlier episodes, Sean and Ella, they have covered 3 inner domains of internal calibration. And today we'll start by exploring one of 6 outer domains of external mastery, which describe attributes that address the skills for influencing people and situations. So today we're going to talk about personal management, it's one of my favorites, which is a domain that focuses on how we as individuals navigate and make decisions as our responsibilities increase and as we face unexpected challenges. So we know young people are facing a lot of domains of work in the daily lives. So RaeAnne, how does personal management show up for you as a young person?
I think personal management for me is really thinking about all the things that I have on my plate, and then really looking at how I can go around managing that and showing up in all these different capacities that I have to, and then deciding what I want to prioritize and then going about it. So I think for me, stepping into uni last year, I found that I had to juggle with a lot of the figuring the whole aspect of figuring out a new environment, and then juggling what I already have to do with my external commitments, and also just managing my relationships that I have outside, like my friendships and my family. And so I think for me that was a bit of a struggle because I found that there were so many things that I had to handle at one time, and it was a bit overwhelming for me. And so I found that in this aspect, personal management was important because it helped me to be able to prioritize what I found was most important for me. And then I was able to go about that. And so I think it taught me a lot also about how to just sort of like be able to draw boundaries and find out what I wanted to show up in and what I wanted to participate in. Yeah.
For our listeners, so that they can understand, like, what does a uni calendar look like for you? So there's schoolwork, there are external commitments, there's time to spend with friends and family and doing other pursuits of things that you're interested in. So tell me, how does your calendar, or how do you spend your time?
I think in uni, there's a lot of course, there are a lot of external commitments that people have the option to join, which very much uni related. Like for example, you have CCAs and all of that, or committees, because a lot of people, especially uni students, feel as if they have to be very committed in CCAs or in clubs for them to gain experiences that are useful to them, right? So that's for the school aspect of things, for the uni aspect of things, and then there's the personal part of our lives, which are just managing relationships and friendships, right? And so I think for me, I found a lot of the pressure from comparing my uni experience with those of my peers, because I found that they had a lot of these exciting experiences in uni. Like they were very active in hall life. They were very active in all those clubs, gaining all those points, right? And then for me, I looked at my own uni life, and it made me question whether I was doing enough, or whether I was making the most out of my uni life as everyone was. And so I think for me, that was a struggle because I had to navigate what I thought was important to me versus what other people thought were important for a uni student.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're alluding to also some sort of a peer influence or pressure sometimes to keep up, right? Everybody else is doing something really exciting and it doesn't help that people are talking about it, posting it on social media. Is it something that adds a lot of pressure? Is it more a perception thing? I'm curious. Or really, when you really talk to a peer and understand their experiences, you really feel that by virtue of not being involved with certain experiences, you aren't able to learn or grow in certain ways that maybe your other commitments will teach you.
Yeah, I think there's definitely that pressure, not only just from friends that I meet in uni or just like people that I meet in real life, but I think just the whole idea of also like social media being like portrayed online or what uni life is supposed to look like. I think that has definitely caused a lot of pressure, not just for myself. I know a lot of my peers feel the same way too. They will look back on their own uni life and despite themselves being satisfied with the way that their uni life looks like right now, I know that we still feel that pressure innately to do more or to fit into what society thinks is necessary for a uni student. And so I think yes, as much as I know myself that my external commitments are what I prioritize and what I find important, I think there is that distinction because I still feel as if like maybe I should be doing a little bit more of what is societally acceptable and maybe participating more in uni activities and all of that.
You
Yeah.
know, it's interesting and fascinating because hearing you talk about it and putting on the lens as a working adult, say like to a large extent it's the same, you know. It doesn't stop in terms of how sometimes we compare ourselves to each other's one another's pathway. And even in the working world, I would imagine that people that have taken on certain career paths, you're constantly looking over your shoulder and it's like, what are my peers doing and where it is coming from, right? I've heard this analogy that back then, in my time when I went to university, doing one internship is kind of like the bar. I understand that it's social norm to take on at least 2 or 3.
Yes, for sure.
That's the minimum.
Yeah, yes, exactly. Like every summer break, one internship at least.
So if there are many of these themes that are at play and distracting you or taking a part, demanding a part of your attention, what you alluded to is like what helps for you. So I'm just curious, like how do you kind of sort through the clutter and decide what you want to prioritize for yourself? Because at the end of the day, this path is going to be walked by you, right? And you will reap the consequences of your own choices. That must add a lot of pressure too. But how have you been coping with managing all these discernment and choices?
I think as a young person, it is definitely hard because I'm still finding out for myself or figuring out what is important to me or what I do choose to prioritize in life. And I am pretty sure a lot of my friends feel the same way too. But I think for me, having that discernment to look at the different facets of my life and picking out what is important to me, did take a little bit of struggle at first because then I had to be like, as a student, I'm pretty sure uni is supposed to be the most important thing, or having a life with like a lot of friends is the most important thing. But then when I actually sat down and asked myself, what are things that are important to me, then I was able to really prioritize around that. So for me, for example, I'm very active in church, right? And so for me, that's a very important thing. For someone else, it may be something else. But I know that for me, I want to invest my time in that. And I'm okay if that compromises other areas of my life, like maybe having a like less vibrant whole life or something like that. So once I found out, okay, that this is the most important thing for me, everything else kind of falls in place because then I know that, okay, as long as I fulfill my responsibilities in these different areas and I have the discernment to know that I'm not, to know that is the most important thing for me and other things are not saying not important, but just like secondary to that, I think that helps me a lot. Yeah.
One thing I really think it's very remarkable that sometimes I think the adults don't tell the youth enough that you're really doing quite a lot behind the scenes when we observe the youth at workshops or when they're doing their own community projects. Actually, all the adults hover at the back and say like, you know, last time when we were at that age, we were hardly doing a fraction of what the young people are already participating in right now. So I think the youth need to get bit more credit than what they sometimes face, the pressure of saying that I need to show up. But what you alluded also is to a little bit of clarity into what you stand for and sort of also having a vision of the kind of adult that you want to grow into or the kind of pathways you want to pursue. You seem to describe it as something that you are quite clear where your compass is. I'm curious, is that the case for most of your peers? And how did you what helped you get clarity and that anchor to know like this is what I really want to focus on?
I think for me, it really boils down to knowing, I guess, my values. Yeah, so for me, I think that was important. And I know that probably it's the same for my peers as well, because I find that, especially for my peers who are very clear on what values are important to them, like for example, family is very important to them, or doing something for society is very important to them, then I think that really helps them to shape what is important in their life and then working around that. So I guess I'm also curious as an adult, like how does that look like to you? Like I guess like when you grow older, then your priorities also shift and things are different, and navigating a working world is also different. So how does that look like for you?
I think the miss and the unknown unspoken thing about vision and pathways is that most people think or allude to, if I sit down and I crystal ball, I do all these personality tests, I sit down with, advisors about my future. If I sit down and figure it out, I get it mapped out and that's it. Personally, I think that's what we fall into a trap of, and then we are very hard on ourselves with what you've alluded to, right? Things change. And as a working adult too, just because you started a career in a particular sector, you have a vision or an area that you're really passionate about, doesn't mean that things don't change. And then change doesn't always need to be a bad thing. And I would imagine that the conversation sometimes focus a little bit more on what can I do to match up with my other friends and peers. As a working adult, maybe because we're older and in some ways less affected by peers in some ways. We're still affected by peers in some ways too. But the idea is really having that time to really connect with what is it true and what is meaningful for myself to pursue. Ultimately, no matter how many comparison sessions that you have and sharing like, oh, this person is doing this so cool, I'm just doing this on my end. We live with whatever choices that we are having, and I think the only benefit of being older is just that we've gone through that visioning or iteration and questioning many more times, so over time it feels easier, I guess. That's what I think we don't tell our youth enough about, that to encourage them that it's gonna be a process, it's gonna be experimentation.
Yeah, I think hearing that is actually very comforting for me, because I feel like coming from somebody who has had a lot more experience than me, and just in like working or just in life in general. I think it's comforting to know that okay, it's okay that I'm still figuring out, and it's not something that, when like you're an adult, then everything just like falls into place, and you sort of know everything. Like, it's a constant journey of like just figuring out and catering your life around your priorities and around what matters to you. Yeah, I think that's a comforting fact.
And I say that not to negate the fact that when the decisions come up, right? There are many things placed before you, and you're placed at a crossroads to decide, like which uni do I go to? Someone asks you a question, or which career pathway you have to take. It's definitely gonna feel pressurizing because it's a big decision after all. I'm curious, like, do you have any stories or anecdotes to share? Like, how real is this tension for a young person, like age 17 to 20, like looking at life and what's before them? Um, yeah, how difficult does it sometimes look?
To balance opportunities and just all of that.
Yeah, and sort through the clutter, because I think the emotional and the drain is, the mental drain is real, right?
Yeah, I think I mean personally for me, I've so I guess to sort of go back to a story that I always remember occasionally is like I have this friend who back in my JC days, like before uni, I she she had this opportunity to take up a really like prestigious role in student council, right? And then I just thought about and then she no no she had this struggle where she really wanted this role, this very prestigious role, but at the same time she had external commitments which she knew were the most important for her, and she did not want to give up. But she knew also that she could not handle both of them at the same time. And so she had to struggle to make that decision for herself and to see which one she would rather choose. But at the end of the day, I think she sat down with her thoughts, and then she just thought about what she wanted to prioritize and what was important to her. And she realized that, okay, maybe the thing that maybe the external commitment is of much more value to her to prioritize than that very prestigious title anyway. And so in the end, she made that decision to say no to that opportunity and to just stick with um what grounds her and what she knew that was for her. And so I guess it made me think about the fact that in life we're thrown a lot of opportunities around our way. And I remember I had this conversation with an adult who I thought was very successful. He is very successful, but I asked him a question which was what is something that you would say to young people these days? People who, of course, young people want to chase success, right? So what is one thing that you would say to them? And he said actually that he said to seize every opportunity that comes your way. Actually, when I heard that, I don't know how that sat with me, because I feel like it's impossible or almost impossible to seize every opportunity that comes your way, because with that it comes with like balancing everything, and that's not always possible. So I think one thing that you struggle with is also saying no when there's more that is on their plate that they can't handle. So I also want to ask you, like, actually, how do you go about that? Like, how do you learn to draw boundaries when you have to?
And I love the analogy, right? First of all, kudos to your friend who made a very remarkable choice and displayed a lot of clarity in what she wants to stand for. I think being opportunistic to try many things is a skill that can be learned. It's very different from taking up every opportunity that presents yourself in your way. Because if you really open your eyes and look out, actually you can do like 10,000 things at the same time. Everything is a learning opportunity. Everything is an opportunity to do something different. So I kind of liken that as being opportunistic, which is the ability to kind of look for things that are really good, find circumstances or ways to do things that maybe people may not see that there's some value out of it. And also taking risks, right? A comfortable ability to do things that are different that may put you in a very discomfort zone. And there's maybe some yield, maybe not. I think technically, I feel that these are things that can be trained and built up as a muscle. One challenge I find that even as an adult is that very often we evaluate the opportunities just as like if someone offers us 6 different things, they look really good, right? The first offer looks really good on title. The second offer feels really great on growth. The third one maybe will earn me a bit more of pocket money at the side. The fourth one will allow me to spend time with family, etc., etc. And when we evaluate all these opportunities, we can't just look at them and say, do I have time to take it up? So alluding to what you talk about boundaries, I think there is a healthy sense of being opportunistic and being a good calculated risk taker is where you actually do spend that time sitting down and really prioritizing what are things that are important for this season. And every season has different priorities. I would say that it's not easy for some young people to really struggle between choosing something that, let's say, has a impact on their academic career pathway versus opportunity to do a project that they're very passionate about. Sometimes there are some decisions that are time bound. And I guess my only encouragement is that do the practical assessment, but by way of passing over an opportunity for now doesn't mean that forever you will never get the opportunity to pursue that domain of growth, of prestige, whichever. And so sometimes it's really looking at it in a less stressful way and say like, my life doesn't hinge on what one choice I make, but multitude of choices that I'll be making in the course of my life. I think that helps me navigate the many amount of other choices that I face as a working adult.
Yeah, I think um I like what you say about risk taking, because I think we wouldn't know what the outcome of every decision we make. Okay, we can have a sort of like a calculated decision and then make that decision, but we wouldn't know completely or 100% what the outcome of a decision we make is. And so I think taking like good calculated risk is important, because then we know how to we also know how to choose like the opportunities that come our way, not just like grab at anything that comes. Yeah.
And I think undergirding that is a pretty important. We're talking about personal management, right? And I think one thing that doesn't always get emphasized is when we need to hunker down to get all these. Choosing is one thing. After you choose, you have to commit to it, right? And there's time and effort, and hunkering down to getting the things done and done well to our respective definitions. You can't run away from some foundational tactical skills like how do you manage your time, how do you balance your energy. I'm just curious, like, how has it been for you, and what are some tips that you have kind of learned for yourself that really helps you manage your day to day, and create that sort of discipline infrastructure so that you can navigate all these commitments with comfort.
I think for me, on a more practical basis, I think having everything very clearly noted down for me is very important. So I think I'm a person that I need to see what is in front of me that I need to get done. And so I make sure that I have everything in my calendar, and that's something practical that works for me. Um and and also because I think I am somebody who I want to do things like all the way. I don't want to just like do it halfway and then sort of like, just back out of it, or like not do it to the best of my ability. So I think having noting things down is something that helps me a lot on a practical side. I think emotionally, mm, I think it's more overlooked, but emotionally, I think when we have a lot of things to handle on our plate, I think that's where it gets overwhelming. And so for me, I think what helps is really finding a source of, I want to say like a source of like comfort, or a source of like stress relief. I think it comes in many forms for some people. I think some people probably enjoy community, and so having a community of like either like people who have like-minded interests, or just like friends who they enjoy. I think um that is a good source of like stress relief for them, I guess. And then another way, I guess, for me also, it's like having like I love to run. So I that is another form of I guess like finding that sort of balance for me in the midst of all the other things I have to manage. Yeah. It's more about, I guess, finding pockets of space for you to just have time for yourself and to do what you enjoy. I think that will spur you on to be able to complete your other responsibilities better.
I love it. I love it because you have actually articulated a number of very practical tools. Journaling is a personal favorite for me too, and sometimes if I don't have the energy to write a proper journal entry and detailing everything, it may just be a brain dump with whatever's cluttered in my head. And I feel that it's been very practical because many times, and studies will show, right, that if we capture all the mess of thoughts in our head, sometimes it's actually really difficult to sort through. One thing I find pretty cathartic, besides the fact that I can vomit out to my journal whatever my emotions and no one would judge me for it, is also that by virtue of putting it down to paper, it sort of helps me visualize and take a look at what's on the plate or in my mind. And then you find it easier to sort through that because sometimes after you kind of put it out there, you're good with it. And the other thing that you have applied actually that I think is a great way of it shows me that you've experimented on different things that work, right? It's not a linear process, but different ones of us have a different coping mechanism. Spending time with loved ones, a very social interaction, being out on our own, spending time with nature. But I think what really hits really important is that it's all a individualized journey. So we have to do experimentation on it. No one's gonna profile you and tell you like these are the 5 ways to please de-stress. And that's the one thing that I feel like I want to tell young people, like experiment more. Don't live life as though like you've either got it or you've not. And I love the fact that you are drawing out all the insights that you're actually practicing and really shifting the mindset for yourself on how you can actually navigate that. Um, I'm curious. What would be some things that you feel have really worked for you that you would love to share with a peer? Or sometimes you have a peer conversation and you ended up talking about like, yeah, this is a great cheat code or pro tip when it comes to managing a very, very cluttered young adult life.
Ooh. Um I think in that it to manage like I guess a cluttered life, or like or a stage of life where you have a lot of responsibilities and a lot of commitments. I think like what was mentioned many times earlier, I think the first one is like prioritization. I think that helps a lot because it then helps things fall in place. So that's the first one. I think second would to be to like very practically just to have everything in a schedule so you know what to do. I think that's like a very practical one. And then the last one I would say is more of like I guess it's more of an emotional or like a mental front, which is just to make sure that like you are doing everything out of a conscious decision to like want to do it, and to consider whether what you're doing is meaningful to your life. Like, is this something that you really enjoy? Is this something that adds life to you? And then go about doing it. Because I think sometimes I don't know, maybe for just as youths, I feel this way, that sometimes we do things because we know that it's a sort of like a cookie cutter, like everybody does the same, like everybody goes through the same path, and then because we think that it's right or because it's tried and tested. But like what you said earlier about experimentation, I think it also applies to like just the like some of the decisions we make for ourselves in life. Like, we wouldn't know unless we try it. And also I think of course they have to be like wise decisions, but I think that also helps us to navigate and also find out what works for us, and like to find out what's important for us when we have like a whole bunch of responsibilities that we have to take care of.
I love it. And to chime in from a youth developer lens, I guess, as what an adult can do to buddy young people, I think that it is a process to create that clarity. And I think as an adult youth developer, one of the things that could be done more would be having these conversations, not so much on the what choices to make, but the thinking behind the decision, the emotional and the clarity of what your personal values are. Those are conversations that are actually really meaningful, because one thing I do observe interacting with remarkable young people like yourself is that if they don't have a certain base of leading themselves and managing their day-to-day as an individual, it's very hard to actually challenge them to lead others and then lead change, because it takes its toll, right? There's just so many things to do. So clarity, which what you alluded to, also having a way and tactical stuff, tools that can be stacked on. I think a reflection as an adult is like, have I been catalyzing enough of these conversations to partner our young people? Because what today's has told me is that you've got all the answers, but you would benefit a lot with having alongsiders who encourage you and just remind you that this is just so real and it's okay to be a work in progress. So to wrap up, to effectively manage oneself is a challenge, and we won't excel it in one day. It's a work in progress to figure out how to draw healthy boundaries and manage stress and time. It's okay to have it not all figured out yet, and what's important is that we take intentional steps to pause, reflect, and take responsibility when the going gets tough. The reflection point for today is, in one sentence, what is one small habit or decision you can make this week to lead better for yourself?
If you found today's episode helpful, do share it with a friend, colleague, or fellow leader. You can also subscribe so you won't miss the next conversation as we dive deeper into how we understand ourselves and relate to others. And with that,
Keep leading inside and out.